Welcome to Behind the Story with Naomi and Lisa, where we learn the story behind the story. I'm Naomi Craig, historical fiction author of Rahab's Courage.
And my name's Lisa Renee from the Collaborative Press. I'm also a contemporary romance author of the Single Again series. Now, welcome today. Last time we had Chautona Havig, and she had a paperback of Bookers on the Rocks. And so in the show notes, you can see if you are the winner. So congratulations, and Chautona will post it out to you when she contacts you and gets your address. So, Naomi, what have you been up to lately? I can see that you are on vacation. You're not in your normal office.
Just submitted my manuscript to Ezekiel to you. So happy reading through my massive. Right now, I am working on organizing and planning my social media and my life, and just trying to get organized. I feel like I'm so much more productive if I have things in a list and listed out. So that's where I'm at. So I'm taking a bit of a writing break this week. How about you, Lisa? What are you working on?
Yeah, well, I also structured my year and just juggled a few things. I found out that my Island series book isn't actually going to be published until 2023, so I don't have to actually do that one right now. So I'm going to work on my own series this month, and I'm trying a new technique. I'm actually walking and talking, so I'm doing speech to text for a lot of the story. So I'll add in the setting and all that kind of stuff later, but just the dialogue, the action, the internal thought. So so that's been really good because I have back and neck problems. Sometimes I get migraines, and too much screen time isn't good. So I'm actually getting out, walking in the park, and using my Bluetooth earphones, and just talking, making sure it is writing it down on my phone. But yeah, just getting out in the sunshine. So that's been really good, and because apparently that's your left brain, your creative brain's working, and then you're not like looking at the screen editing at the same time and like, oh no, don't use that word. And so it just flows a lot better, and it's really cool. These big long chapters written for me, like in 20-minute walk sort of thing. So that's really cool. So my goal is to do the whole story like that and just see the results. So yeah.
Excellent. And you're in a different place today too. What's up with that?
I am in my teenager's room because it's locked down here, and so the kids are at the other end of the house and they're not at school, but hopefully on Monday they're going back.
Very good. Well, our special guest today is award-winning, multi-talented Hope Bolinger. Hope is literary agent at C.Y.L.E. She is a graduate of Taylor University's professional writing program and is a content editor for Salem Media. She has won awards for her essays, poetry, children's books, novels, and plays. When she's not accidentally writing a book in 9 days, she's participating in local theater, modeling gigs, singing in the choir, ringing handbells at church, the snazziest instrument since the lyre. Hope, so good to have you on Behind the Story.
Thanks so much for having me here. I'm excited.
Awesome. We're excited to have you here. And there's a lot of people, some of our audience haven't heard of you. They're not into young adult fiction. So just tell us a bit more about yourself and other genres that you've been trying out lately.
Sure. So yeah, as mentioned before, I'm a literary agent, I'm a content editor, and I write in a number of genres. So I do write YA fiction. I also write middle grade and sweet adult romance. So we're kind of spanning a lot of different genres, and I'm really excited.
You've got such a wide variety going on. That's wonderful. So your upcoming release, Dear Henchman, is a sequel to Dear Hero. Tell us about the book, the series. What sparked this story?
Yeah, so I have it right here. So this is Dear Hero, which I co-authored with awesome author Alyssa Rote. Go give her a follow. She's amazing. And basically the premise of the series is a superhero and a villain meet on a nemesis pairing app. And so they fight, but they don't expect to fall in love. So it's a really fun epistolary romance. And then the sequel is coming out in which the henchman and the sidekick are now, it's up to them to kind of save the world. So it's between those two. So super fun. It's coming out in April, and I have not laughed more writing a book than that one. There's lots of humor, and so I'm really excited for the release.
Awesome, cool. So let's go back to you being a literary agent. So how did you get involved in that? You were writing when you were younger as a teenager and submitting to agents, and tell us from there.
Yeah, so when I was 16, when I was writing, I decided to try and submit to literary agents, and I learned very quickly that they did not get back most of the time. And if they did, it would be kind of a form email, so it would have no feedback, and I wouldn't really know kind of what to do from there. So I decided I kind of wanted an insider look at the industry to kind of find a way in, so I could help other people find a way into the industry as well. So pursued the professional writing degree at Taylor and went to a lot of writers conferences where I met the agent who not only ended up representing me, but I interned for him. And so after a year of interning with him, I discovered I really enjoyed it, and he onboarded me with his staff of agents. So I have been doing that ever since.
That is fabulous. So as an agent, what is like an automatic turnoff if someone is submitting to you and you're like, nope, not going to happen? What's an automatic turnoff for you?
No, this is a great question because there's so many different answers I could say, because I've gotten a lot of submissions. I've gotten, thousands of submissions every single year that come in. But I would say the number one thing that drives me the most crazy is when someone just doesn't follow the directions. And you would be surprised at the percentage of people who just don't read the guidelines on your site. I think maybe probably about 80% of the queries you get are not even at all the genre that you're looking for, or even remotely close to what you were asking for. So if you're already following instructions and researching the agents that you are wanting to submit to, you are already ahead of the game.
Great. I do hear that a lot. That's one of the biggest things. But after, if I've got it all formatted correctly, right genre, set out nicely for you, do you read just like the first page, first paragraph? Like, you've got thousands of submissions when you're not open for submissions at the moment, but when you are, you're getting all these manuscripts sent to you, or is it the 1 page, 5 pages for your agency?
No, this is great because a lot of agents are different with this. I do know agents who only read the first page and sometimes the first paragraph before they will send a rejection. I try to give it the first chapter. I mean, oftentimes I'll ask for the first 3 chapters initially, and then if I like it, I'll ask for more. But that first page has to be incredible, because there's this interesting thing that happens at conferences where you'll have a panel of agents and they'll have you raise your hand where you would stop reading on the first page and send a rejection. And I hate those panels because you have to be just so brutally honest, but it's just, you get so many submissions that if someone's first page isn't shining, there may be another one in your inbox that is.
Sure, absolutely. This is really helpful, I think, for the writers who are watching. So if you are an agent and you are an editor, do you need an agent and an editor? Or like, you can't do it all yourself?
Right. So yeah, this is definitely, I have actually 2 answers for this, one for the agent and one for the editor. So I learned very early on that as an agent, you can't represent yourself. So although you may have some publishing connections, if they need an agent, you need to have your own personal agent representing you. As far as editing goes, I mean, I'm sure you guys can agree to this, but we have blind spots when it comes to our own writing. And so as much as I kind of know what to look for when I'm editing someone else's manuscript or looking for copy edits, I am totally blind to what is happening in my own manuscript unless I have another pair of eyes on it. So it's just helpful to kind of help spot check me where I'm not seeing where errors are. And so that is why even as an agent and an editor, you need an agent and an editor.
Awesome. So are you traditionally published completely, or have you done some indie books as well?
So back in high school, I did go the indie route for one book. And I know someone had asked a question saying, is traditional publishing or indie publishing better? And honestly, I think both are great options. I think it just totally depends on what you are looking for, how much kind of control you want over the process, what the timeline is that you're looking for. So I think just research is really important for both. I've seen people succeed really well in both, and I've also seen people struggle in both. So I think both paths are equally valid and equally good paths to take for writers. I am currently mostly traditionally published. I chose to go through the traditional route, but I know so many very successful indie authors who I definitely look up to and have been so inspiring to me.
Great, yeah. And you still can learn from them because even traditionally published authors have to do a lot of marketing.
Oh, yeah.
So you can learn from the other authors out there. So how many books have you published and which is your favorite?
So in the traditional market, I have published 3 books, and we have 9 books that are slated to publish in the next 3 years. I don't know if I can pick a favorite. I'm sure people answer it this way all the time. I mean, you know, your book is your baby and you just can't choose a favorite child. I will say, though, I am very excited for Henchman, Dear Henchman, that is coming out, because even going through the galleys, even going through proofreads, I'm still cracking up at all the lines, even though I'm reading them for, you know, the 6th, 7th time that we're going through it. But I don't know, I love every single book for a different reason. I'm sorry if that's like a wishy-washy answer, but I can't choose.
Yeah, that works. We'll take that. That's I love it. So what inspired you to start writing, and how many years have you been at it? And what advice would you give someone writing their first book?
So technically, I've always been writing. I wrote ever since I was 6 or 7 years old, but I never really considered it to be a career until I got to about high school age. So about 16, 17 years old. I had a friend who wrote novels, and I thought they were crazy because I think the longest thing I'd written at the time was a stage play or something, so maybe 70 pages. So I couldn't imagine sitting down and writing hundreds of pages at a time. But I decided I wanted to talk to my friend other than the TV shows that we were watching. So I decided to give it a go. I got bit by the bug, and of course, the rest is history. So since I got started when I was 16, I'm about to turn 24. It's been about 8 years. And then I think the last part of that question was, what advice would you give to people who are starting out? I mean, my best advice is just get started. I heard this quote saying that doubt stops more people than failure ever will. And I think that's just so true. You know, we have these awesome story ideas in our head, but we're so worried about what people are going to think. Is anyone going to even like this story? And so for those people, I just advise you, pretend that no one is going to read the story for now and just write the story. Tell the story to yourself. That's essentially what the first draft is just you discovering what happens.
Awesome. So the 3 books that you have out, are they a trilogy? Do they have a common theme?
So 2 of them are part of the trilogy. The 3rd one is coming out in August. This is a modern day Daniel set in a high school. So this is the first one, and this is the second one. I basically just chop up the book of Daniel into 3 parts and then put it in an American high school. And then the Dear Hero series is a separate duology. So yes, we have a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of things that are on kind of coming up deadline wise. Inspiration for the story came from a weird place. It came from a gen ed college course. So at Taylor, we were studying the Old Testament in a semester, which is a lot of books at one time. And I remember the professor said something during one of the lectures on Daniel that really kind of stood out to me. And she said that Daniel and his friends would have been about 14 or 15 years old when they were taken into the Babylonian captivity. And that kind of struck me. You know, I always thought they were 30 or, you know, older than teenagers. So here you have these teenagers who are being stuck into this hostile environment. They're having to stand strong in their identity, and they're thriving in Babylon. So I thought it'd be really cool to kind of see what that looks like right now. So that's kind of, I mean, I definitely get inspiration from odd places, but that was definitely one of the more unusual for sure.
And my daughter has read Blaze, and I just picked it up to actually sound intelligent while I was speaking with you. But I really enjoy it. I think you handled it really well, and I think you bridged the gap because you do think of them being as older people, and, of course they're mature in their faith because they're, but they had to start out day by day. Today they were strong, and then tomorrow they were strong. And I love that example. And, I think that's probably one of my heroes of the Christian faith is Daniel, because he did day by day and starting out as a young man. So you handle that very well. And I just finished Ezekiel. So I'm all into Babylon and Judah's history right now. So I recognize all those names you slipped in. I thought that was very, very clever. Well done on that. But I also love that my daughter has options to read, seeing kids working out their Christian faith today. I love that. So thank you so much for doing that in your writing there. So what is the best marketing strategy that you, or advice that you have recently gleaned or implemented in your own career?
Yeah, because obviously marketing is constantly shifting. Well, something that is trending in marketing one year may not be trending in another. I think something that's been very helpful is just kind of to work smart, but not necessarily burn yourself out. Because something I discovered when I was initially marketing, especially the first book, was that I would try everything. I'd get on blog tours, I'd do tons of giveaways, I'd be posting all the time, and I just got burned out so quickly. So I think the best marketing advice I have learned and I can give is just really play to your strengths and really know kind of your limits. And it's okay that you can't do everything. No one can do everything in terms of marketing. Just have fun with it, and kind of do the marketing you really love too. Have a lot of fun with it.
That's excellent advice. Yes, I think there's some people out there that need to hear that are stressing out a bit too much and can just relax a bit and just focus on what they're good at. So awesome. How about book reviews? Yeah, how do you handle the good ones, but the bad ones as well? I can imagine like young adult readers, some of them are a bit more bold in what they was put on social media or on the websites and reviews. How do you go with that?
Okay, so this is going to sound so unorthodox. I don't actually read the bad reviews. And I know that sounds terrible because obviously we need to know bad feedback and everything, what people don't like. That's why I love my critique group for and beta readers for that. I used to read bad reviews, but then some people who I knew wrote some bad reviews of my books, and it kind of changed how I felt about them. So I decided that for the sake of friendships and everything, just to kind of let the reviews be for the readers, and then let my critique group, beta readers, anyone who messages me, if they have read my book and they had certain thoughts, I kind of let that feedback be the ones that I receive. I didn't know you were allowed to do that as an author until I talked with Stephen James, who is a pretty awesome Christian suspense author. And he said, yeah, I just don't read the reviews, because he said the 5-star ones just make me feel so excited, and then the 1-star ones just make me feel so defeated. And so I don't know. I don't read reviews. I mean, but I know other authors do, and they really handle just kind of taking a walk, knowing that it's one reader's opinion, because obviously no book is going to have all 5 stars, and people are going to not like it, and that's totally fine.
So that's really, that's helpful, because I mean, people are going to be mean and unhelpful and mean and rude and like this. There's no use filling your brain with that. Just keep writing and doing what you're good at and all that. So we had the opportunity to ask some readers a couple of questions or to see what they wanted to know. And Michael wants to know, for young adult fiction, what do you believe is the subject young people are most geared towards reading?
So what I'm commonly seeing in both the Christian and general markets is that they're really looking for something social issue based. They are very educated at what is happening in the news. They know about current events. And so they kind of want to see books that are reflecting different struggles they're going through, different things that they are seeing happening. So books that kind of don't pull punches is definitely a thing I'm seeing, obviously tastefully doing it, but being able to talk about the difficult stuff, being able to talk about mental health, that's been a really big thing in YA fiction, but just kind of being real with them, not talking down to them is something, I think that's like an evergreen thing, definitely YA fiction, but just kind of meeting them where they're at. knowing that they are intelligent, that they are still finding their way in the world, but that they have a lot to contribute.
What about
That's
how you
excellent.
convey your Christian message? You know, because some genres, you know, some genres in Christian fiction, some don't mind a bit more preaching. Well, we're not supposed to be preaching, but, you know, Christian content. What is it like for young adult? Is it subtle, or it just depends on the author?
I would say definitely subtle. And the reason for this, I'm going to tell a story. So back in high school, went to a Christian high school. And so we had some very, very Christian YA in our library. And I just remember reading through some stuff. And like, I was a pretty mature Christian at the time and being so frustrated because it definitely was hitting me over the head with the Bible. And I was thinking, you know, if I'm getting frustrated at this, what is going to happen with my unbelieving friend over here if I were to recommend this to them? So they're going definitely the more subtle approach. Some of those Christian publishers are definitely trying to kind of teeter the line between general market and Christian market. So you can definitely have Christian characters, you can have a light faith thread, but definitely kind of focusing more on the story at hand rather than putting a message or trying to preach at them.
I mean, yes, we do want them to know Christ's love, but if they're not going to even pick up the book, how are they going to get there? You know, so I think then that'll plant the seeds, and hopefully they'll have a friend in their life who can continue to fertilize and harvest that, you know. So we've already kind of talked about indie publishing and traditional, but Jake also asks, he says, your Blaze trilogy is such a cool idea. How did you come up with the idea, and how do you navigate Bible story to modern day? So I know we kind of touched on that already, but how do you get from Old Testament prophets to modern day?
Right. I mean, part of the inspiration for the series was actually Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers, because I loved how she took the story of Hosea and Gomer and put it in a different time period. So that's kind of a mentor text for this sort of thing. And also another book that was helpful is something called Something I Am Not, which is kind of a modernization of the story of Joseph. Super recommended. Amazing YA book. But yeah, there are definitely certain details you couldn't get in there. Like obviously Danny in my book couldn't be a eunuch, and there's various details that aren't going to make the cut, but it's through a lot of Bible study, a lot of commentaries, a lot of understanding what the context was. You kind of have to do just a lot of research to make sure you're doing it correctly, to make sure you're not, you know, kind of doing your own interpretation of what was happening, because it was a actual historical event that happened. So definitely with a lot of symbolism in there too, with the names and everything. But I mean, I talked at a high school once where they studied this for their curriculum as part of their English class, and one of the girls was really mad at me because she said, why doesn't Danny have a kosher diet? And I said, you know, there's kind of some give and take. He was a vegetarian in the book, but that was kind of a little bit of a spin on what we see happening in Daniel 1. So yeah, you definitely have to teeter a line. I had a lot of Bible majors and kind of professors look through it too to make sure I wasn't making any errors in terms of interpretation. But yeah, just a lot of research and making sure that you are telling it accurately.
Did you find that challenging to pull it, because you are having to manage the historical aspect and then the modern? Was that a challenge for you, or?
I definitely found it daunting, especially for the one that's coming out in August, which is that latter half, all those fun visions that are happening in the end, because theologians do not agree at all what is happening in those last 6 chapters. So it's definitely an undertaking. A lot of prayer went into the process. Anytime I went to write, a lot of prayer, like, Lord, please, work through me, make sure that I am interpreting this correctly. So yeah, it was definitely a huge burden of responsibility, because I mean, definitely with any book I write, I feel that way, that there is a burden to tell the story well. But I think especially with this series, I wanted to make sure that it was told well, but also true to the original story.
Yeah, absolutely. So on a lighter note, what is something fun or quirky about you that may or may not influence your writing?
So, I mean, as mentioned, maybe, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but I like to go in weird outfits in my downtown. So I may be perusing around in a Red Riding Hood cloak. I may be in a prom dress, who knows? It all kind of started with a social experiment in my sociology class in high school, where you just had to break societal norms, and then it has continued since. So I like the whimsical. I like to wear some fun outfits. So I mean, I'm sure it contributes to writing in some way, but I'm a little bit of an odd one over here. So I just like dressing up, I guess, a little bit.
Got to do what you got to do to get inspired. So tell us, what's your favorite 3 authors that inspire you?
Yeah, in the Christian market, I would say it is Tessa Emily Hall, who is a mentor. Tara Ross, really good YA writer. And then Caroline George, who just released her book. So proud of her. But of course, there are so many I would love to mention, so many strong Christian writers, but in the YA space especially, those 3 for sure.
So what's coming up for you? I know you've signed with middle grade, you've signed with romance. What's coming up this year for you?
So in this year specifically, we have the sequel to Dear Hero coming out. We have the final book in the Blaze trilogy, Vision, coming out in August. And then in October is mine and Alyssa Rote's sweet romance titled Picture Imperfect. So that is coming out with Mountain Brook in October.
Can you quickly go over your recent book titles just once again, and how our viewers can get a hold of them? Where's the best place to go?
Sure. All right. So I will go through them. So Blaze is the first one in the Blaze trilogy, and Den is the second one. You can find it on Amazon. I think most of the traditional sites you can find it, or you can find it on my website, which I'll spell out in just a minute. And then Dear Hero is also the other one. That is out. So if you want to find them on my website, it is Hope Bolinger. That is BOLINGER.com. Or if you just search Hope Bolinger on Amazon, you can probably find it there, or on the publisher websites as well. So there's a number of places that is available.
Wonderful. And we'll make sure to put that into the show notes so you can link up with Hope. You can follow her. You can see what's happening in her writing career, which I'd highly recommend that you give her a like there. Thank you so much for joining us today, Hope, and sharing with our viewers on Behind the Story.
Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Okay, and so yes, we will have those links in the show notes. Hope has a novella that you can get download for free if you subscribe to a newsletter on her website. And we'll also have Naomi and I have I have my novella, the first part of Polarized Love, which is the rom-com section of the book, on my website. Naomi?
Yes, I have a biblical fiction novella about Balaam and his talking donkey. So if you're intrigued with Hope's biblical retelling, I got some more biblical fiction for you on that. That's called On Desolate Heights. You can find that on my website, naomicraig.com. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Behind the Story. Until next time, let us run with endurance the race set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Thanks for joining us.
So thank you again for joining us today on Behind the Story with Naomi and Lisa. Don't forget to click on the links and subscribe to our YouTube channels, and you'll keep up to date with our author interviews. Have a great week. God bless.